This is my full review of the Sims 4 Life and Death expansion pack. And in this video, we're gonna go over everything that's coming in the pack. We'll talk about what's good, what's bad, and also whether or not I think this one is worth buying. I was given early access to this pack by EA, but I am not being paid. They just let me play with the pack a little bit early so that I can make videos like this for all of you. I was given a second Sims 4 that had just the base game and the new pack, and this CFE version, they call it, has a couple of little quirks. You're gonna see a watermark with my username floating around the screen, and that's literally on the game. It can't be removed. This version also has no gallery and no library access, so you'll see the gallery is grayed out. And obviously, because I only had Life and Death, I can't really talk about cross-pack compatibility because I haven't tested that for myself yet, but I have played many hours of Life and Death over the past few days. I have been like living and breathing this expansion pack, so I'm ready to walk you through everything in it. This is a really expensive game, so I want to make sure that you have all of the tools to know what you're buying and also know whether or not it feels worth it for you to spend your money on. So with that being said, let's get into the game. At its core, this is a pack about death. They call it Life and Death, but really it's about preparing for death, dying, and then being dead. It's more like death and after death, because with this pack, your sim dying isn't game over anymore. So let's talk about that first, because ghosts are a major feature of this pack. And while ghosts are base game, they get a huge overhaul in Life and Death. Prior to this, they weren't really an occult type. You could be a ghost, but they couldn't do all that much. But now they've become a full-fledged occult type like vampires or werewolves are. Ghosts now have what I always refer to as a skill tree, but is technically called Ghost Mastery. And this is where you can level up, earn points, and then spend those points to buy different perks and abilities. There's 22 new perks that you can buy and 2 special ultimate perks to unlock. There's kind of 2 tracks here, so there's good and evil abilities plus some slightly more neutral ones. The evil perks let you torment living sims and cause chaos. You can haunt items, you can hauntingly shriek, you can cause messes, and my personal favorite is called Levitate, which lets you pick a sim up, turn them upside down, and then shake them until items and money fall out of their pockets. It's one of the top level perks, but you can actually make some pretty good money doing this because most of the sims drop around 100 simoleons at a time. The evil perks are the most fun, but I see myself using the good perks more often. The good perks are just really useful because you can help out around the house a lot. You can instantly clean stuff, you can instantly repair and also upgrade appliances, you can take away another sim's bad mood, you can help fill their needs, and you can even add an extra day to their life. And now keep in mind, all of these good ones have an opposite evil version. So if you buy the evil perks instead, you could steal a day from a sim's life. You could steal their needs. There are so many perks to choose from, so every time you play as a ghost, it'll feel a little bit different. Ghosts now have a stamina that you have to keep an eye on, and this is basically just how much power they have. It's very similar to how the other occult types work in The Sims 4 if you play with like vampires or spellcasters, but just in its own ghostly way. One of the other major features is something completely new called the Soul's Journey. This affects both living and dead sims, so playable ghosts have this too. And they describe it as your sim's satisfaction with their own existence. It's a little circle and you level it up as you work on your aspiration or complete tasks on your bucket list. For ghosts, that bucket list changes into something called unfinished business. So the Soul's Journey information shows up on your aspirations tab directly above where your aspiration usually is. And can I just say, I am so glad that this is finally something that's not in the Simology panel. Everything gets put in this Simology panel. If you've got a bunch of packs, this page just keeps scrolling and it's so hard to find stuff. I much prefer them splitting it up a little bit more. But there are 6 levels to your Soul's Journey plus 2 more that you can get to once you've passed away. And as you progress through all of these, you start unlocking some perks like extra satisfaction points, extra skill gain, extra career performance, and you progress through the Soul's Journey by completing tasks from your aspiration or by working on your bucket list. The bucket list is a list of goals for your sim's life. It'll show a max of 4 at a time, but as you finish them, you can do more and keep progressing through your Soul's Journey. These bucket list items will very slowly auto-populate, so if you don't do anything, it'll still give you some to work on, but I would recommend writing them yourself. So on the computer, there's a new bucket list category, and there's a few different options here. If you hit write goal, it'll write you a random goal, and there are a lot of different goals that it can pick from. Right now, my sim wants to ride a rocket ship or go to work as a max level astronaut. They also want to burn every bridge by being despised by 5 different sims, and they want to throw the most bizarre costume party of all time and host a gold level costume party. So they kind of vary in terms of difficulty. Some of them you have to max a skill for, others you just need to woohoo in a weird location for. You can see a few more if you hit right goal from category category because with this, you can pick, hey, I want to have a travel related goal. And your sim is still gonna write a random goal, but it will at least be travel focused. And that might be like, I wanna spend a full day in Willow Creek. I assume that if you have other packs, there will be some cross-pack compatibility there, but obviously I only have the base game, so we don't have a lot of options. I wanna get busy is about woohooing. There's some family ones and success ones. You can also choose to write the perfect goal, but only certain people can do this. You basically need to have some additional life perspective to write a perfect goal, so you have to have seen someone die recently, maybe be dead. So my ghost sim can do that. And writing a perfect goal just means you get to literally pick the exact goal that shows up instead of just seeing a random one. My sim's writing a random one right now, and they now want to host a dinner party. So that kind of gives you an idea of the kind of stuff that shows up. Instead of a bucket list, ghost sims have something called unfinished business, which is the exact same thing, just relabeled. And they've also got those 2 extra tiers of the soul's journey to work towards. So once you complete your soul's journey, every sim that does this unlocks the ability to be reborn. But if a ghost goes all the way and finishes the entire soul's journey, they're gonna get a bonus trait called the Burning Soul trait. You get a few perks with the Burning Soul trait, including some extra benefits to your ghost mastery stamina, but also some perks related to rebirth, like you can retain one of your current traits once you're reborn. And interestingly, if you get reborn and you have the Burning Soul trait, you can do the Transcendent Woohoo when you're alive. We'll talk about that later on too. There's a new pop-up when a sim dies now. Instead of them just disappearing, it gives you the option to choose to come back as a playable ghost, to become a free roaming ghost, which is basically what death means for sims now, where they're kind of just like appearing sometimes attached to their gravestone. Or if you've unlocked it, you can choose to be reborn. I am absolutely devastated to tell you that rebirth did not work for me in early access. It was actually a bug specifically with the weird CFE version of the game that I'm playing. I mentioned how we have no gallery and library access in this version of the game. And when your sim is reborn, it tells you to pick a household to move into, and then it sends you into CAS to create your sim again. My problem was that I was never able to get out of CAS again. Basically, it was trying to save the new household to my library and then start playing, which it can't do because it can't use the library. So it would just get stuck, and I could never progress past that. I could literally never get out of CAS without closing my entire game. I reported this bug to EA, and they looked into it, and it sounds like this is not a bug that will happen in the real game. It's purely an early access bug caused by this weird version of the game that we're using. I told you the CFE has its quirks, and this is a pretty bad one. So I haven't been able to play the regular version of the game yet, so I don't know what's gonna happen when the pack is actually out. That's the only major bug I encountered during early access. Granted, it is a pretty major one, but hopefully that won't be the case for everyone when the pack is actually out. So I can't really talk too much about Rebirth because I have not personally experienced it, but here's a brief rundown of how it works. If your sim has unlocked the ability, they can choose to be reborn when they die, or a ghost that has the ability can go into the Baleful Bog at any time and choose to be reborn. Then it will immediately take you to the map where you can choose a household to be reborn into. You can pick any household. So you could be reborn into your own house, just as yourself again. You could be reborn as Bob and Eliza's baby if you wanted to. And once you pick a household, it puts you into CAS. And again, you can be anything. You can pick whatever age you want. You can completely customize your appearance. So you could choose to look the same, you could look completely different, and you can also decide your relationship to the other sims in the household. So you could be Eliza's mom instead of her baby, or you could just be some random sim in their house. It is completely custom and completely up to you. You're basically making a new sim. I think this has some pretty cool potential for legacy challenges because you could technically play a full 10 generation legacy challenge with just one sim and like keep being your own heir. Keep in mind that once you're reborn, you are completely starting over, so you won't have your skills or your relationships or your traits anymore. Unfortunately, that's all I can really tell you about this because I haven't played past the CAS point myself. I am genuinely really upset that I didn't get to test it out because I feel like this review is incomplete. I can't properly review the pack when I'm missing out on something so major. And also, I played for like 6 hours with this one sim trying to get to the point where I could be reborn, and then it just didn't happen. I went into the bog, dog, I picked a household, I remade my sim, and then I just couldn't get out of cast. I hit checkmark and nothing happened. So mark my words, this is the first thing that I am doing on release day. But let's go back to living sims again for a second so we can talk about the next major pack feature, because this pack comes with 2 new careers. It's actually kind of rare that we get a career at all in a Sims pack, let alone 2. And this one has a fully active career. The standard Sims career is a regular rabbit hole type where your sim just goes off to work on their own during the day. And they've been implementing a lot of hybrid career types where you can go off to work during the day, but you can also work from home. And then we've got a handful of active careers, like from Get to Work and then the acting career from Get Famous. But we haven't gotten a fully active career since Get Famous, and the new Reaper career is fully active. You play as the Grim Reaper's assistant in his office on a special lot called the NWDD, the Netherworld Department of Death, and it takes you with them to work to that career lot during the day, and you play the entire career with your sim. This career is so unserious. They're really playing into some corporate office type stereotypes with this one, which is especially funny because you work in an office of death. They call you a grim turn at first, and there's a bunch of funny names for your role as you level up. I found these types of careers to be very repetitive in the past, and I play them pretty rarely because of that, but they definitely tried to keep this one interesting. There's a handful of different workday types that it'll cycle between, and that includes going to a physical lot, like visiting someone's house to reap their soul, sometimes reaping a few souls on one lot, sometimes you'll deal with family members, and you'll also often have to fix broken stuff around the office. A typical workday will have you select an assignment and then kind of prep for work. You might research your assignment, clean your scythe, maybe practice reaping on the death dummy named Kenny, and then you would travel to your assignment location, maybe reap a soul or 2, soothe some mourning family members, and then head back to the office to release the soul and then do paperwork. It literally has you doing admin work like checking death statistics or like ordering office supplies. You're meant to get a reward when you finish your soul quota, but I'm honestly not quite sure how this is meant to work. I would get a pop-up literally every single day that I had 1 day remaining to finish my soul quota, but I think it's supposed to happen once a week, so that's a little bugged. This is a 10 level career, and I found it extremely easy to level up. I went to work every day with my sim, and I leveled up every single day. Even at the higher levels, I was able to level up with 1 active workday, so it literally took me like 10 days in game to completely max the career. I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing. I like that it's easy to progress through, and it also means that it's okay if you don't go to work with them every single time. That's something that I struggle a lot with the doctor career from Get to Work, for example, because I don't want to have to go to work every day in a regular save. The ideal scenario for me is to go to work sometimes, but then send my sim off on their own most of the time so that I can focus on other things at home. Them going to work is like a break for me. So I do kind of like that I don't have to go to work every single day in order to max the career. I'm also not sure how often I'll play with this once the novelty wears off. I like it for special occasions, but truthfully it feels a little bit weird to have my average sim working as the literal Grim Reaper. The other career, though I found it to be a bit less fun, I will probably use more often. The second career is called Undertaker, and it's a standard 10 level rabbit hole career. It's got 2 branches, Mortician and Funeral Director. As you level up, you're gonna need gardening, charisma, painting, thanatology, even the fitness skill. So it has you becoming quite well-rounded, and I like this one because I like to send my sims away. And I like the storytelling of this career because it's a lot more realistic to have your sim working in a funeral home than to have them working for Death himself. I sort of expected that it might be a part-time job like it was in The Sims 3, so I was very pleasantly surprised that it was a full 10 level career. And you can join it from the phone like normal, or you can click on a crypt out in the world to join it like you could in the old Sims games. That made my little Sims 3 heart happy. And since we're on the topic, let's get into funerals. This is one of those things that I have been desperately wanting for years in The Sims. It's such a big part of life, and it's always been a little bit weird that we didn't have that in The Sims. There really wasn't ever a way to like properly send off a sim or to celebrate their life after they passed. And now in Life and Death, we get a brand new funeral event. I am a little sad to say that this kind of works like weddings from Wedding Stories. You pick the dead sim, you invite guests, you choose activities, a dress code, and a start start time. You can actually choose to hire mourners if you want, which I thought was really funny. So like with any other Sims party, you can hire an entertainer, but if you want, you can also hire mourners to show up and pretend to be sad. You are completely in control of what happens at these events, and you select a few different mourning activities for your Sims to do during the funeral. This ranges from giving eulogies, dancing, lighting candles, playing music, you know, stuff like that. It also gives you some free reign to design the kind of event that you're trying to host. Because you get to choose everything, you could make it more of a formal, somber occasion, or you could make it more of a party vibe to celebrate someone's life. I think that's the best way they could have done it. So while the wedding stories comparison is concerning, I do think that it's a good way to do this. Every culture, even every family, treats death differently, so it's nice to have some more control over how the funeral's gonna go. And I found that this worked a little bit better than wedding stories tends to, but at the end of the day, it's still an event in The Sims 4. And if you've played this game at all, then you probably know what I mean. Parties and events in The Sims 4 just never quite work how I want them to, and they kind of just end up standing around while you queue a few interactions, like moment of silence, give a toast, and then they just go home. Basically about what I would expect from a new party type in The Sims 4, and I don't really mean that in a nice way. It's not bad, it's just fine. It's a fine party, and it works just how you think it will. And outside of an actual funeral event, there are a couple of other ways to commemorate the life of a Sim that has passed. So for the first time, we're actually able to customize the urn or the headstone that your Sim gets. There's quite a few new headstone types and one new urn, and I think that if you have things like Realm of Magic or Werewolves that come with a headstone, you can pick those too. So when your Sim dies, it'll give you that standard base game headstone, but you can very easily swap it to whichever one you would like it to be. They also have these new tables that are called memorial displays that are slightly reminiscent of an ofrenda. It's basically just a table that you can dedicate as a memorial to a Sim of your choice. You can slot items on here, so you might put things like flowers, but there's also a new memorial photo item. And this photo can also be dedicated to a certain Sim, and it'll automatically display a picture of them from just before they died. This is amazing, and I'm gonna use it all the time in my legacies. It's a great memento of a Sim that has passed, and it's nice to be able to get a last photo even after they're already gone. I always try to remember to take pictures of my Sims so that I can have memories like this, and it's great that I can just get one out of build mode. And while we're talking so much about graves and memorials, there is a new lot type in this pack. We are finally getting cemeteries. This is gonna sound ridiculous, but a proper graveyard lot type has been so high on my wish list for The Sims 4 for so long. I'm a big legacy player, so I play a lot of saves for many generations, and I end up with a lot of graves. I have made many fake graveyards over the years, so I'm really excited to finally make real ones. There is a 64 by 64 lot cemetery in the world, but you can build one anywhere. So you can make one in Willow Creek if you wanted to. And they've given us the new functional graves, but they've also given us some decorative ones. So there's some new fake headstones that you can use to decorate places like this. There's also some dirt and stone plots to decorate with, and they kind of work like decorative platforms to put a headstone on top of. We even got a new crypt item, and you can place up to 20 graves inside of that crypt. This could be great if you wanted to have one crypt for your entire legacy family, although I might need more than one considering how many graves I have. There's even some unique gameplay tied to the crypt. You can woohoo in here, you can nap in here, and you can even explore it, kind of like the tunnels and caves from other packs. It'll give you those little story pop-ups like, oh no, I saw a creepy thing in there, but look, I got this item inside. And I have never in my life had Sims woohoo autonomously, and yet I came to visit this graveyard the other day, and my Sims went into the crypt on their own and woohooed. No intervention from me, I didn't do it, they woohooed on their own. When the woohoo music started playing, it genuinely scared me because it was so unexpected. So I'm not sure if autonomous woohoo is a new feature or if that's like specifically on the graveyard, but that was interesting. And there's actually a couple of other autonomous activities that Sims do here. You'll see a lot of mourners hanging out at the graveyard, but you'll also see Sims jogging around it. There's also a new hallowed ground lot trait that I would maybe describe as like haunted house light. So you'll get some creepy things going on like staticky TVs, maybe some fog, your Sims might feel cold all of a sudden, but it's not as bad as the actual haunted houses from paranormal stuff, and you can use this on any lot type, not just residential lots. Okay, so we talked a lot about death and what happens after your Sim dies, but there are some things that you can do to prepare before this happens. One of the other major new features is the will. So any Sim can choose to write a will, and in this they'll decide what happens to their belongings and their body after they die. So you can set your preferences for funeral activities or headstone style. You can write a custom personal note and decide what emotion it should cause Sims to feel, and you can decide what should happen to your dependents and your simoleons after you die. So you know how if the last adult sim in a household dies, all of the pets just get adopted out randomly? With this new will system, you can decide what will happen to a child or to a pet should their adult pass on. So you can write these wills from the computer if you go to the household category. My sim already has one. If you've got a will, it'll be in your inventory and you can update this at any time. You can choose to clear your choices or you can just update them from here. It's kind of interesting. I can choose to give 80% of my household funds to charity or to another household. I can write those completely custom personal notes that I talked about, and you can set up heirlooms. And this is what I am most excited about from this feature. You can pretty much do this with every single item in the game. Think toilets, grandfather clocks, paintings made with the painting skill. And once you designate an item as an heirloom, you can choose a sim to be made the recipient. And then you can also write a custom note that will stay with it. I am going to use this all the time in Legacies. If you've seen my Nightmare Legacy challenge, you've probably seen my fire toilet. I have had this fire toilet for like 13 generations. That is an heirloom, and now I can designate it as the heirloom and like write the story of how I upgraded it by accident and now I've got this spontaneously combusting toilet. So you'll set all of that up before a sim dies, and then after they pass away, the next day you'll get the will in the mail, and then you can read it aloud and people will react accordingly. Sometimes they get mad, sometimes they get upset, and then it distributes all of the stuff that you've set, so you'll get like the grand piano heirloom in your household inventory. I wasn't expecting this as a feature, but I think it might end up being one of my most used aspects of the pack. I'm picturing myself setting up so like when grandma's household dies off, her money goes to my sims, maybe your single sim's dog goes to their brother, but more so the heirlooms just work really well for legacy challenges. That's kind of a theme here. There's a lot of great legacy tie-ins in this pack. And of course, if a sim dies, their family, their friends are gonna have more to deal with than just their stuff, because there is actually a new grief feature. So we all know how sims usually get that 48-hour sad moodlet when a sim dies, but now there is a chance for your sim to develop one of the new grief types on top of that. And this will last a little bit longer than the sad moodlet. It pops up like a trait, only it's temporary. You might have a sim in denial and they'll feel bored a lot because of it. You might have a sim feeling angry over the loss and they'll be mean more often and get in angry moods more often. And grief doesn't just affect sims who have lost someone, it can affect sims who are going through other hard times, like maybe losing their job or getting divorced. If you've got parenthood, this is kind of similar to the phases that kids and teens can have, but this one obviously is tied specifically to loss. I really like the idea of this because it makes for a more realistic experience. Like in real life, you usually aren't just sad for 2 days and then immediately permanently over it. And in real life, people react differently to loss, so it makes sense. I do worry that long term, I'm gonna find this really annoying. Like if I'm playing the 100 baby challenge and I'm killing every single one of those baby daddies, I am 100% cheating away any grief types. I am just not dealing with that. I am not mourning every baby daddy I get rid of. But for the average save, I think it does make sense, and I'm curious to see how it impacts my gameplay long term. Okay, that's enough of that sad stuff. Let's start talking about the fun stuff, like the new death types, because this pack comes with 2 brand new deaths, although one of them is still kind of sad. So as we all know, when your sim is really old and their time is up, their lifespan bar will start glowing, and then they'll kind of just like curl up on the floor and die. They've added a new animation for this old age death. So if your sim is in bed when they die of old age, they'll actually stay in bed. In the past, they'd wake up, get up, and then get on the floor, but now they don't have to wake up for it, so it's a little bit more peaceful. I assume the other old age deaths still exist, and this is just a second variant of it, but I'll admit I haven't actually tried to do the regular one because I was so excited about the new one. And the other new death is even more fun, and it's called Death by Murder of Crows. So there's this new crow item that feels sort of like a mix between the My First Pet stuff rodents and the cottage living bunnies. You feed it, you socialize with it, you can even give it gifts and it'll give you gifts back. But if you provoke the crow too many times, it'll call upon its friends to then attack and murder you. So a group of crows is literally called a murder of crows. But that is just such a silly workaround to get the word murder into The Sims, because I don't think they've ever, you can't murder people. I don't think you can say murder in The Sims, but because it's the technical term, they've got murder of crows. The ghosts of Sims that die this way will have a little crow stuck inside of them, like floating around. Unfortunately, the crow is kind of stuck to its perch. It won't fly around your house or anything like that, but it does go off and like disappear on adventures like the rodents do. So sometimes you'll look and your crow will just be gone. The rats are the same way. It'll come back eventually, don't worry. I also never had a crow die, and I played for a long time and definitely failed to feed it many times. So I'm not sure if they can't die or if I just got lucky. But anyway, if you've ever watched one of my pack reviews, you'll know that I use this woohoo spot and death type scale. And the packs that come with woohoo spots and death types tend to rank more favorably from me. Well, this one not only has 2 new death types, but it also has 3 new woohoo types. One of them isn't completely new, but it's the ability to woohoo in caskets. If you've got vampires, you can already do this in coffins, but the vampire has to be the one to initiate it and click on the coffin. A regular sim can't woohoo in a coffin, but with life and death, anybody can woohoo in a casket. Also, anybody can sleep in the casket, by the way. So it's not completely brand new, but it is an extra place, and we got loads more caskets in this pack. I also mentioned earlier that new crypt woohoo spot, and that one's kind of similar to the barn from Cottage Living. They just like disappear in there and hearts come out of it. There's not really a fancy animation or anything, but with both of those two, your Sims might get creeped out by it. They might get a moodlet like, ooh, this is gross and it feels wrong afterward. Woohooing in a crypt is unhinged. At least the casket is empty, but like people's bodies are in the crypt. I'm still gonna do it all the time. I'm probably gonna have a crypt on so many lots now. But the best one by far is the new ghost woohoo. And there's kind of like 2 variants of this ghost woohoo. If you have 2 ghosts, they can do something called possess woohoo, and they'll basically fly into any object nearby, possess it, and then woohoo in there. This might be a chair, maybe a table, maybe the fridge. You can't decide what they use, but I think it's usually the nearest object that's eligible. It kind of looks like when a ghost haunts an item, but there's hearts coming out of it. And one of the perks that your ghost can buy on the skill tree is called transcendent woohoo, and that lets you woohoo even human Sims like this. It just turns that human into a ghost for a second so that they can do it, literally do it. So on that death and woohoo scale, this pack ranks pretty high, and we've pretty much covered all of the major gameplay features now, but there's quite a few other smaller things that I still want to mention. There is one new skill in this pack. It's a 5-level thanatology skill, which is basically the study of death. You can build this skill by reading theories on the computer or researching historical deaths on the bookshelf. This one is good for both of the new careers, and as you level up, you unlock some kind of wacky abilities like this creepy speak dead languages interaction. I was kind of sad to see that it's only a 5-level skill, but I also don't really know what they could have done to expand it to 10 levels. So it makes sense that it's a minor skill, but it does kind of stink to only get 1 and only have it be 5 levels. There's a new tarot card collection that is very fun. This was like the biggest surprise for me of the pack. I didn't expect to like it as much as I do. Dare I say, I think this might be the best collection The Sims 4 has ever had. And honestly, I didn't really know that much about tarot cards going into this, but this collection is just objectively more detailed than any of the others in the game. There are 26 total tarot cards, and it's not like the other collections where you just like randomly dig up rocks and hope for the best. There's specific ways to find each of the cards, and when you're in the collections tab, if you hover over them, there's poetic hints about where to look to find them. And to get 8 of the cards, you'll have to do tasks for these secret society members called the Order of Lenore. The story here is that it's Lady Raven Dancer Goth's old tarot card deck. The Order of Lenore was formed a long time ago with the mission of trying to complete it, and you can help them. And once you finish it, you can actually summon her. You can summon the ghost of Lady Raven Dancer Goth. There is a standard tarot card deck in build mode too that you can buy, and you can do readings for yourself or for others with these. Other Sims will actually pay you 30 simoleons per reading, so you can actually make a little bit of money this way. I know some people wanted to have a full career with this, and the gameplay for the deck itself is a little bit underwhelming, but the collection was so impressive that it was one of my favorite things to do when I played through the pack. Granted, I am a sucker for a collection in The Sims. I always like them, but this one is the best. By far, it is the best. So Lady Raven Dancer Goth is kind of a fun lore Easter egg, but there are a few other special townies that I wanted to mention. There's this mysterious merchant called Waylon Wares. He's a ghost that definitely sells suspicious stuff. He hangs out by the mini cemetery in town, and he's open to buying the fear and goodwill essence that you can get as a ghost. So if as a ghost you torment humans, you'll get this essence in your inventory, and you can sell it to Waylon for 5 simoleons each. I know, it's not a lot. It's rough out here. And you can also to buy some interesting things from him. He sells an authentic will and also an opportunity to take a chance on a mysterious item, which I maybe would not recommend. But he also has a rotating stock of things like literal human souls and a ghost cow plant. I'm counting that ghost cow plant as another one of the special townies. It works the exact same as a regular cow plant, just ghosty. You can buy one from Wayland for 5,000 simoleons. I think you can maybe also get one when you're like digging around in the crypt, but I haven't gotten lucky enough to do that yet. And there's also one just out and about in Morningvale called Percival the Patient. This is our first official cowplant townie, so he is very special to me. We've never had a cowplant just out and about either, so it's kind of fun to have him around. I think most Sims players probably never use a cowplant or even know that it exists, so now that he's there, it's gonna introduce so many more people to my friends. Also in Morningvale, there's this special guardian tree, which we'll talk more about in a little bit, but it's guarded by a sim called the Ghost Mother, whose name is Alice. She is a little bit creepy, but I swear she's nice, and she's got a quest for you to complete. And if you complete her quest, you'll unlock some pretty nice features on that tree, like getting collectibles from it, and also it can fill your needs. You can click on the tree and it'll cheat your needs all the way full. There's another scary little ghost called Edith who hangs out around the Wishing Well in Crow's Crossing. She is very aggressive, but I think for good reason. I don't want to spoil too much story or lore about these Sims, but there is a reason she hangs out by that wishing well. She did not die pleasantly. And this wishing well works just like that romantic garden stuff one. So your Sim can come to it, throw in a coin, make a wish for money, for love, for skills. The only problem is that it is extremely likely to go wrong. I think the wishing well is one of the most underrated fun features of this game. Most people don't have romantic garden stuff or like even know that it has the wishing well. So it's pretty cool for them to pull it into this pack. I know that's kind of controversial because not everybody likes it when they bring back stuff from older packs, but in this case, you can't have a wishing well on your lot. It's just out in the environment, and I think that's okay. I love the chaos of the wishing well, and it's fun how a ghost haunts it. And there are a couple of other ghosts around. I'm not sure if I should call them townies, but there are some floating specters in the town square. These look a lot like the ones from Paranormal Stuff, but they're a different color and they're not mean. One of them is special. He wears a bow tie and his name is Freddy. If your Sim's in a bad mood or experiencing grief, you can ask to be consoled or seek catharsis from them. I found these Spectre guys to be kind of glitchy. I would often queue up interactions that didn't work, and also most of the time I couldn't talk to them. You can only talk to them in very specific circumstances. You have to have the right mood to talk to them, so that's part of it. But it is kind of cute how they just fly around that playground area, which, by the way, that swing set, there's a swing set in the town square and it moves by itself at night. There's a lot of creepy stuff going on in the environment of this pack. The other weird thing is they had teased haunted houses a little bit, which left a lot of us wondering how they would be different from Paranormal Stuff. I mentioned that lot trait, but there's also some rabbit hole haunted houses around the square. And when I say rabbit hole, I mean one of those things that your Sims goes into and you can't see them or go with them. They can go in to attempt to cleanse ghostly infestations. If they're a ghost, they can haunt it themselves. To me, this is barely gameplay. I would not list it as a feature of the pack personally. I honestly forgot it was even a thing, but I guess it's cool that it's there. It's something to do, even if it's quick. And it does look cool around the town because the lights flicker and stuff. And we've talked so much about the world, but I haven't actually shown it to you. So let's take a second to look around Ravenwood together. So here we have Ravenwood. It's a pretty big world. There's 3 neighborhoods and 13 lots total, 14 if you count the Reaper's special career lot. Down here we have Crow's Crossing, and this is kind of like the main town square. Crow's Crossing is a village founded by Moppy the goat and rumored to be frequented by ghosts and regular hauntings. There's 5 lots down here, 4 houses plus the cemetery. A lot of stuff happens in this town square area in the middle, and you might recognize these Sims, the Spectre family. The Spectre family has an air of mystery to them. Rumor has it that Olive's prior husbands all met unfortunate ends, which makes things rather awkward now that she's engaged to Lane Coffin, the founding and sole member of the band Withering Widdershins. Does Lane know that his soon-to-be Spectre spouse has skeletons in her closet? He's definitely not going to be asking too many questions about her son Nion's mysterious parentage. Let's just say that maybe Grimm's not keeping tabs on their household solely because of Olive's past loves. Olive and Nion are back from The Sims 2, so you might recognize them. Nion used to be called Nervous Subject, and he is supposed to be the Grim Reaper's son, but they didn't give him the Grimborn trait. We'll talk more about that in a second, but it feels like a missed opportunity that he doesn't have it. He does hate his almost stepfather, and of course Olive is engaged to Lane. They have a stunningly beautiful house in town. And if you look down here, you're gonna find a little graveyard. If you choose to read these graves, you'll find that they're all previous Spectre spouses. Ichabod Spectre, Earl E. Demise, the jilted lover of Olive Spectre. So there's a lot of fun lore surrounding this family. Up here in Whispering Glen, we have the rolling hills of Ravenwood's countryside. There's quite a few ruins up here in this area, plus 2 houses, a bar, and an empty lot. Both of these houses have families living in them. The first one is the Gomez household. Having tried being a ghost on for size, Rodwan and Zipporah Gomez have decided that being a ghost isn't for them, at least not quite yet. Meanwhile, Rodwan has his hands full keeping his clumsy wife from meeting Grimm a little too soon. In the midst of all this chaos, their teenage daughter Zelmira has plunged headfirst into their own study of the afterlife after finding a tarot card on a walk one day. Now Zelmira is embracing their inner macabre side and finding unique connections in the family's past to a very special member of the Goth family. Things definitely seem to be getting a bit spooky for this household. Zelmira uses they/them pronouns and is actually a member of that order of Lenore that we talked about earlier. And across the way, we've got the Ether family. After a miscommunication with a pet crow, Kai Ether found himself in a less corporal form than expected. It's a story familiar to many families, but there's an unfortunate wrinkle to this story that has made things extremely stressful for not just Kai's husband, Akade, but also for their son, Takama. You see, not only does Kai not seem to understand that he's dead, he also doesn't believe in ghosts. So we've got this couple and their son. And lastly, up here, we have the Morning Vale neighborhood. This place is creepy. It's very ghostly, lots of fog, scary trees, weird lighting, lots of ghosts walking around. You might even see the Grim Reaper walking around. It's got kind of a cute town square and bell tower area in the middle, and there's a nightclub, an empty lot, an empty house, and a townie household. So this is the Izadi Gomez household. Esther Gomez was already looking for a ghostly roommate when poor Zulika met her end in a rather unfortunate cowplant accident and also found herself looking for a new home in the same neighborhood. Now the two are sharing a home and Esther is teaching Zulika the ins and outs of ghostly living and career development working for Grimm. So they both are in the Grim Reaper career. So Esther is Zipporah's sister, that household with the teenager who's into ghosts. So Zelmira and Esther are both a part of that order of Lenore that we talked about. And I love the idea that Zelmira is close to their aunt. Zelmira also hates Kai for some reason. And like I said, these two are both in the Grim Reaper career. I really like the details and connections between townies in a new world. That's always one of the most fun parts to me, is to meet the new characters, or in this case, to re-meet some old characters. And aside from just the townies, there's a lot going on in this world most of the time because there are 6 new festivals that take place in Ravenwood. I think festival is maybe a little bit of a strong word for a few of them. They're more like pop-up events that happen around town. For comparison, it seems like City Living has proper festivals and these are more like mini festivals. You're gonna see 3 of them on the calendar, but there's a couple of extras that just happen almost every day. The Thinned Festivale takes place around Alice's Scary Tree on Wednesdays. This one is my favorite. The idea is that locals, the ghosts and the humans, are all kind of gathering around to give offerings to the tree. We want to bestow gifts upon the guardian tree to then receive its enchantments. But there's a bunch of other stuff going on. Like one of the Grimm turns will show up and you can play Grimm's Game of Chance with them. They'll hand you a gift and it might be a prize like the Grim Reaper gnome, or maybe you'll get unlucky and turn into a temporary ghost for a few hours, or maybe it'll spawn the actual Grim Reaper himself. If you turn into a temporary ghost, you'll still have access to that ghost skill tree, just only for a few hours. You even get your own grave in your inventory, and there's a couple different ways for this to happen to you. It may happen randomly like this, or you could choose it for yourself by going into the Baleful Bog. There's a tarot card reader here, and people are supposed to dance, but I found that people mostly just crowd around, or ghosts will torment you. Again, it's The Sims 4, so they kind of behave just about how you might expect them to. Ravenwood Family Day happens on Saturdays in the town square. There's a crow handler sim here for you to talk to, and I think that's just supposed to be a way to get you to see the crows more often. A lawyer also comes and sets up here, and you can ask them questions about like wills and heirlooms and all of that stuff. You could ask them to write your will instead of doing it from the computer or from the phone. This is kind of tutorial-y, and I think it's also just there to show you how to do that and maybe encourage you to use it more. During this festival, you can also search the fountain for frogs, and kids are supposed to be able to ask those little specters like Freddy for a present. I did not have much success with that, but overall, it's a fine little festival, and it is nice that kids are included, because the kids aren't really welcome at the other ones as much. Like the Moon Revelry Festival is not for kids. This one happens every single night by the lake in Whispering Glen. It's special on the full moon though, because everybody shows up naked. At this one, you're meant to dance, moonbathe, and swim. Everybody does dance, they'll moonbathe too, but I have never a single time seen a sim swim during this. I think it's really cute how they all hang out by the fire pit. I actually really like this one, and I especially like it on the full moon. I also love how there's always one happening, because it's not such a big deal if you miss it, because there's always tomorrow. Although I don't recommend skipping the full moon revelry. You need to go check that one out. Afterlife Anonymous also happens every day, and it kind of alternates times. It'll be in the morning, then it'll be at night the next day. And this is like a support group for ghosts. In theory, everyone sits in a circle and listens to a speaker at the podium, but in reality, everyone kind of just stands around. Maybe a ghost starts haunting something, then Sims start peeing their pants from fear, and that just goes on and on. I don't think any of the festivals work quite as they are intended to with autonomous behavior from other Sims, but at least everybody comes to them. So it is a nice way to meet other ghosts, especially since for some reason you cannot call them or invite ghosts anywhere ever. Even if you're best friends with a ghost, you still cannot click on them in your relationship panel and invite them to hang out. I think this is maybe an oversight because the whole pack is based around ghosts, so you should be able to hang out with them just like regular occult types. I understand that we used to not be able to do this because you can't really invite out a dead person, but if there's a ghost in the world, I should be able to call them, I think. It's really hard to get in touch with ghosts, so I almost don't recommend befriending ghosts that aren't in your household. If you want to date a ghost, you might want to have them live with you first. Otherwise, it's hard. It's just hard to get in touch with them. And lastly, there are two smaller, more mini events that take place in Crow's Crossing, the town square. The Celebration of Life is kind of like a pre-set up memorial barbecue. It takes place 3 days a week, and there's already a casket and a memorial display, and it's actually kind of sweet that everyone gathers this often to remember loved ones. And weirdly, they all do it in crow costumes, so you're gonna feel kind of out of place if you show up in normal clothes. Not much really goes on at this one. It's more of like a hangout that happens to come with crow costumes and free food. And then there's also the Try Before You Die casket sale, and this is not a festival, it is just a casket sale. This also happens 3 days a week on opposite days from the Celebration of Life, so there's pretty much always something going on in town. With this one, a guy literally just comes up and sets up some caskets and you can buy them from him. I think the festivals in this pack are pretty fun, mostly just because it means there's always something going on. It makes the town feel a lot more lively because you're always seeing people congregating for something, and it's not really a big deal if you miss them. Like, you don't have to go out of your way to attend these festivals. I think with City Living, it kind of feels like, oh gosh, the romance festival's on, I've got to go visit it. But because these happen so often, like, you don't have to go to Afterlife Anonymous every single day, but if you want to, you can. And if you're just visiting Ravenwood, there's probably something going on when you come into town. It's a great way to meet people, you can get free food, and that's the other bonus. This world is perfect for rags to riches. The main thing all these festivals have in common is food. There are so many proper home-cooked meals just out for you to eat for free, and there's events happening every single day, so you can go there and eat every single day for free. There's always food for you, and there's also a bunch of crypts and caskets just kind of out in the world as well, so you can sleep in those for free. And like I said, if you complete Alice's quest on that tree, it'll fill your needs. So there's a lot of ways to fill your needs in this world, and I can see Stanley Humphrey living here a lot. We're just about done covering gameplay, but I'm gonna move into cast for this final segment because I want to talk about the traits. There are 3 new traits in this pack. The first one is called Macabre. Embrace your inner darkness and your occasional intrusions of light. Macabre Sims are all about being their best, unique Sim self while still reveling in all that life and the afterlife has to offer. And functionally, in gameplay, these Sims will be like randomly bored, they can talk about death a lot and spread gloom, they might get mad if they're in the sun, even if you don't have seasons. And also, they added a new portrait for Macabre Sims, so they'll be like crossing their arms in your relationship panel. There's also the new Skeptical trait. Not entirely trusting of the majority of things you see or hear, skeptical Sims like to challenge the universe to provide concrete proof that something is indeed as it might appear. So skeptical Sims don't really believe in ghosts, they won't believe in like werewolves or vampires if you have those packs, and I imagine that being a skeptical Sim and living in this world is gonna be kind of challenging for your worldview. And last, my favorite trait, by far out of all of them, is the new Chased by Death trait. Chased by Death Sims know that death follows their every move. While risky and dangerous behaviors may have deadly consequences, frequent near-death experiences give these Sims a desire to live each day to the fullest and progress along their soul's journey faster. Keenly aware of their own mortality, these Sims feel best when they are achieving something meaningful with their limited time left. Blah, blah, blah. The big picture here is that chased by death Sims are more likely to die. So say, for example, your Sim's computer has broken and you try to repair it. Well, this Sim is much more likely to get electrocuted and then die first try. There's a lot of deaths in The Sims 4 that require you to have it happen to you twice until you die. Electrocution, even cow plants. If you are chased by death, you may die first try. So maybe like avoid risky situations, don't provoke any crows. I love this trait. I'm gonna use this for so many Sims. I feel like this was made for me. And if your Sim is dead, it changes to embraced by death. Death caught up with these Sims at last. Without the constant threat of death looming over them, these Sims now feel free to embrace their soul's future. And I think that's kind of a cute touch as well. There is also a new aspiration called Ghost Historian, and these Sims want to learn everything about ghosts and use the findings to write spooky horror novels. If you finish the aspiration, you get the Ghost Whisperer trait, and Ghost Whisperers have access to special interactions to discuss their eerie findings and publish works. They also have an easier time making friends and more with ghosts, so you can woo ghosts easier, and they get very excited when encountering ghosts, the Grim Reaper, and crows. This aspiration is kind of interesting because it basically has you become a writer while also trying to study thanatology and meet ghosts. We actually unlock a new novel type for the first time ever with this aspiration. They've never added a new type of book that writers can make in The Sims, but as you work through this, you'll unlock the ability to write horror novels. So that's kind of a fun bonus expansion on the base game writing skill. And actually, if you're in the Reaper career, you can write reaping manuals now too. There is actually also one secret trait that is exclusively for the offspring of the Grim Reaper. So for the first time, you can have babies with Grim. This is something that people have been cheating and trying to like glitch into doing for years in The Sims, and they finally made it an actual feature in this pack. So anybody can woohoo with the Grim Reaper, but only people who have life and death can try for a baby with him. For a while there, you couldn't even woohoo him, so they fixed that. And Grim's babies all have the Grimborn trait, and they'll also have a special secret scythe birthmark on their neck. And shockingly, the Grim Reaper is kind of attractive. I don't know if I should say that, but like genetically, his babies turn out pretty good. Because technically there's a guy under there, but there's not because it's the Grim Reaper, but like technically in The Sims, it's a costume. It's like Patchy. If you take the Patchy costume off, there's a guy in there. And I think that's a good spot to end the gameplay segment of this video. There will inevitably be some things that I have missed or didn't go into too much detail on, but this video is long enough already, and we should probably move on to create a Sim. The cast stuff in Life and Death has a very gothic vibe to it. There's lots of dark colors, and lots of it feels quite formal and fancy with like jackets and collars. I am not a huge cast person, so I'm not gonna go too in depth on this in this video, but I'll show you some highlights. There are 10 hairstyles for adult feminine frame Sims, and there are 9 hairstyles and 1 beard for masculine Sims. There are some really beautiful pieces of clothing in this pack, and there's also some kind of random wacky things like this ghost costume. I'll show you this Sim's outfits real quick just so you can get a little bit more of an idea of what it comes with. Shockingly, there's 2 swimsuits in this pack. There's some cool t-shirts, lots of very fancy formal jackets and long dresses. Ghosts actually have a special category of some ghost full body outfits, and these are special overlay ones that change more parts of their body. You can see how it changed this Sim's hands to be bony. This is the Ghost Mother's outfit, and we also have this interesting one. You can see her ribs in there. There's some more bony hands on this variant, and then we also have this version as well that you can change the colors of. You can toggle the ghost overlay on and off now, which is great because you can actually see colors of what your ghost is wearing. And I'll show you this Sim's outfits real quick too. I'm obsessed with this dress. Lots of really cute pants in this pack, and weirdly enough, the shoes were one of my favorite parts of the whole pack. There are 6 new pairs of shoes, and every single one of them is so good. Like, I'm gonna use these all the time. There's even quite a bit of stuff for the littler kids. They've got a crow costume, plus some kind of cute fancy outfits. Infants have some adorable items like this little ghosty sweater set. There's a new onesie and a pretty dress. They brought quite a few of those adult hairs and made them work on children. And the kids have loads of clothing options too. too. I'm obsessed with this coat in particular. Of course, they have the crow costume, the ghost costume, and some kind of ghostier looking clothing. They don't have any new pants, but they do have this beautiful new cardigan as well. I'll show you a couple of the masculine Sims outfits real quick too, because I have given this Sim a couple. You can see what I mean, where it's very formal with like the sweaters and the collars. I love a lot of these full body coat outfits. They've also got this amazing robe for sleepwear. Unexpected just plain t-shirt and shorts from the pack, and then of course some more beautiful coats for cold weather. Overall, I think this is exactly the kind of Create a Sim stuff that you would expect from a pack like this. I was very pleasantly surprised by just how much the younger kids got. I honestly wasn't expecting much for kids, so it was great to see how much they added. This isn't a pack that I would personally buy solely because of the cast, but that really comes down to your personal style, your preferences, your gameplay style. I like it a lot. I think it serves its purpose well, but I don't think that Create a Sim is like the shining star of this particular pack. It's good, but I don't think that it's like jaw-dropping best part of the game. Does that make sense? I actually think that the gameplay is the shining star with this one, and that's a good thing. I think it should be. But like I said, I'm not really a cast player, so let's move on to what is usually my favorite part of any new Sims pack, the build mode. Building is my favorite thing to do in The Sims, so I am always very excited for any new content for build mode. This pack has two very distinct build styles. One that I would describe as a sort of gothic glam, and then one that's leaning a little bit more haunted house. The glam stuff comes in lots of dark colors, jewel tones. It's got a ton of marble and a ton of gold accents. And the haunted house stuff has some grainier wood tones, looks kind of run down. And I struggle a lot with this method of split build styles in packs because I understand we're trying to tell two stories here. We've got lots of fancy rich people, and we've also got some old broken down haunted houses, but I feel like we never get quite enough to tell a full complete story with just one build style on its own. And these two don't really match each other that well. This is one of the pre-made builds, which can I just say is unbelievably amazing. This is so cool with the greenhouse in the back and like the estate that this house is. It's massive and it's furnished so beautifully on the inside. And they've got all these like holes in the floor. There's holes in the roof up here, and I'm obsessed with this new item. But I think I struggle a little bit with the combination of this like really fancy marble countertop with a hole in the floor. It doesn't look bad, but I think a lot of the swatches of this are really hard to use with those more rustic looking items. Even with the window, this window is so dirty and broken, and then we have this like shiny, brilliant cabinet. So I was struggling a lot when building because even the clean window swatch still kind of looks like that. This is the clean version, and even the clean version I think sometimes doesn't match quite right. Maybe I'm being like way too picky, I don't know. But I had a hard time with this one. This haunted house looks great, but when I was trying to build my own haunted house, the kitchen set was really throwing me because the kitchen looks like if Bella Goth bought a really fancy mansion in LA. It does not look like a haunted house. It's way too fancy. I like it, but for the goth glam style, not the haunted style. Does that make sense? It's not a bad thing. It's just hard to use those two styles together, and every pack kind of has this problem. Let me point out a few of my favorite build items real quick because there's a ton in this pack. There are 3 new rugs in 3 different sizes, and one of them has little tiny death flower emblems on it. Amazing. Obsessed. No notes. There are also 2 new beds in this pack with some really fancy headboards, and I love the floral swatch on this one. Although be warned, this tufted elegance bed costs 3,200 simoleons. It is very pricey. The kitchen set is a full kitchen set with oven, with fridge. It even has a sink and a dishwasher. So you can make a complete kitchen like this, and it is really nice. I like the black marble countertops. It even comes in a plain white, and I'll be honest, I can see myself using these a lot in other builds. I think the kitchen set is my favorite part of the whole build mode. Weirdly enough, this nightstand is also ranking very high for me. I like the books in it, and I like the wood. I just think it looks really pretty. And I have to mention this fireplace. This is a medium wall height fireplace, so it has to go only on medium walls. It won't fit in a short room. And it's got this skull in the middle of it. This is so dramatic in such a fun way. I want to go back and like renovate Vlad's house to put this in there because it's so good. And speaking of walls, there are like a million wallpapers in this pack. There's actually 10 total. There's a couple fancy wallpapers and fancy paneling textures. There's some nice brick versions, there's stone, and then we also have some plain stucco and some slightly more rundown stucco. These are easily some of my favorite wallpapers that we've gotten for exteriors in a long time. And look at this. You know how normally the wallpaper won't work like this? This one does. The auto corners work way better on this one than any other wallpaper. I'll give you an example with the paneling. You see how that one won't place it on this corner? That's because you have to drag it out 2 tiles for it to work. But the new brick is smart enough to not do that. Of course, we must mention these holes in the floor. These will work on roofs and floors, and you can change the color to match things a bit better. I have been trying to do fake stuff like this for so long in The Sims, and now we actually have real variants. This is gonna be great for fixer-upper houses, run-down houses, haunted houses. There's a bunch of fences. We've got 4 new fences, one that's really fancy with a matching giant gate. We also got a new foundation, and I always want more foundation types. I'll quickly scroll through some of these just so you can get a better idea, but I won't go through everything individually because there's way too much to even start. The bookcase, the grandfather clock, and these fairy lights are also highlights for me, but I will stop yapping about build mode. Because I think that just about covers everything in the entire pack. So now that you know what's coming, let's talk about my final thoughts. I think this is a really weird pack, and I mean that as a compliment. I think The Sims thrives with weird, and that's why I like to play Sims. That's when I have the most fun playing Sims. The Grim Reaper career is an absolutely ridiculous idea, and that is so fun. Naked moonlight revelry festivals, everyone showing up in the town square in crow costumes, getting murdered by crows, ghosts woohooing in random objects, even ghost cow plants. You wouldn't expect a pack about death to be this fun, but they clearly know how many Sims players like to cause chaos with death, and they took that and ran with it. It's interesting because I think this pack serves a really great purpose for 2 completely different types of Sims players. There's people like me that kill a lot of Sims and collect graves and thrive in chaos. And then there's people who hate when their Sims die, who play on long lifespan and quit the save when their Sim gets close to death. And I think they're feeding both of us with this pack because we've got all of this chaotic stuff, but they've also added funerals and cemeteries and ways to memorialize your Sims. You can keep playing with ghosts after a Sim dies, so death isn't really the end anymore. And not that I would know about it, but there's also this new rebirth feature. So if you really wanted to, you could keep playing with that same beloved Sim forever. So life and death is simultaneously completely ridiculous and unserious, but also, if you want it to be, a very serious and special way to play with loss and the end of life in game. We've never really had a way to commemorate the end of life in The Sims before. When somebody died, your Sims used to just be sad for 2 days and then completely forget about it forever. And this pack really changes that for generational gameplay. And I think it'll be really great for people like me who love to play legacy challenges. At my core, I am a legacy challenge player. I'm the kind of person who plays 10 generation legacies on short lifespan because I like to keep it moving. I want to keep moving on to new generations and new Sims. I really like doing that. And I do still get sad about my previous heir dying, so I love the idea of being able to properly memorialize them. Even just with the new funerals, it's nice to have a way to properly send off one Sim before I move on to the next generation. Also, the heirlooms are going to be amazing for legacy challenges. I already have items that I sort of pretend are heirlooms, like a previous generation's duffel of cash from the criminal career, paintings they've made. And now I can properly designate those things as heirlooms and write descriptions for them of who they belong to. Obviously, I haven't tested this, but imagine using things like Crystal Creations to designate jewelry as an heirloom. Because you can designate paintings, I'd like to think that you could do it with any of the craftables. And I know I keep saying it, but my fire toilet in my legacy challenge, I cannot wait to properly designate that as an heirloom. When I get this pack for real, the first thing I'm doing is being reborn, and then next I'm making that fire toilet an heirloom. There's just so many possibilities for how to use this. It is a little bit hard to talk about bugs in these reviews because I know that I'm playing a version of the game that is not final software, but I did obviously have one that I would describe as game breaking because I wasn't able to be born, and also it literally broke my game and I couldn't get out of cast. But the Sims team did confirm to me that that was exclusively a CFE bug, so it was caused by the weird version of the game that I have, and it won't happen to anyone else on release. So fingers crossed that's true and it won't be happening in the real game. I do honestly believe that though, so I'm not really worried about it because I know that it was caused by the library not working. And obviously the library is not disabled in regular Sims games. That's a very specific issue for this weird early access game. And I didn't really encounter that many other major bugs. There's always small things. It's The Sims 4. Like, we know what we're getting into, but that was the biggest one, and hopefully it's not gonna happen to you. I think that this is a really interesting pack that will likely pair very well with other packs. If you already have occult packs like werewolves, vampires, realm of magic, the ghosts from this are gonna go so well. I am so curious to test out what happens if you have a ghost vampire. I wonder if you can be both, because this might be the first time that we could have like a hybrid occult type. And what if you're a famous ghost vampire? You've got 3 skill trees. I just can't wait to try that. Also, if you own some more of the family-based packs like Growing Together or Wedding Stories, I think you could tell a really lovely story of a very complete life. You can obviously do it without that, but there's so much more detail and depth to a Sim's life now, and after a Sim's life even. This one feels like it's for the Simmers that are in deep. There are so many references and Easter eggs for long-time Simmers referencing old packs and old Sims games. I don't know if it'll appeal as much to the average person who's just picking up the game for the first time now, but for long-time Sims fans, I think you'll really enjoy this one. And you don't have to be a long-time fan to like it or to get it. I think I just mean that this one is more for the Simmers, and if you just started playing the game yesterday, you probably wouldn't pick this as your first pack. And that doesn't really apply to you because you're watching Sims YouTube, so you're already in deep. You are a Simmer. I never expected that we would get a death pack, and I never expected that it would be like this, but overall, I really enjoyed it. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. I've definitely become a lot more death motivated in my gameplay over the years. It's so funny because I used to be that person that would literally quit saves when my sim got close to dying, and now my legacy challenge save has 430 graves in the front yard. I've changed, and I think that this pack was sort of made for me. I keep saying it, but the ghost cow plant, the cemetery lot type, all the new grave types, babies with the Grim Reaper being the Grim Reaper, multiple new death and woohoo spots, like this pack is ticking all of my boxes. So I loved this, but I know that I can't really make a blanket recommendation because I don't know you or your playstyle, but what I can say is that I have thoroughly enjoyed this pack, and if any of these things have stood out to you as seeming kind of fun, you'll probably like it too, especially if you're a chaotic player or a legacy player or both, like me. I know a bunch of you never let your Sims die, but this might be a fun opportunity to try, and I think Sims packs really thrive when they expand upon an existing and maybe underutilized feature. So like with ghosts, we've always had them and they've always been bad. So they took that and they completely expanded them to be a fully fledged occult now. And with death, there's those take away the pool ladder type players that love it, or there's the hate death and avoid it completely players. And so they took that idea of death and made it into a more immersive experience that kind of benefits both types of Sims players. The people who love it are gonna love it more, and if you don't play with it, it gives you more of an incentive to try. In my opinion, this is one of the most surprising and also coolest pack concepts we've ever gotten for The Sims 4. We've kind of reached that point in The Sims 4's life cycle where we're getting some unexpected content. We all knew we'd get like seasons and pets and university, but now we've done all of the obvious ones and we're kind of entering weird territory. Aside from fairies, we still have no fairies. But this pack, no one saw this coming, and I really like it. Now, obviously keeping in mind, it is $40, and that is a very steep price. You'll likely also enjoy it 6 months from now when it goes on sale finally, but I also understand those of you who need to buy it right now because I am one of you. I get it. It's hard to talk about the price of Sims packs because, like, is this pack worth $40? I don't know. Is any pack worth $40? But is it worth the same as all the other expansion packs? Yes. In fact, I think this is better and has more gameplay content than a lot of other packs, and I think that comparison is important. And if you are planning on buying this pack, I'm so sorry to do this, but I would highly encourage you to use somebody's creator code at checkout. You do not have to use mine, but please use somebody's. Most of your favorite Sims creators will have a code that is usually their username. You could always ask them or check their bio or description to find out what it is, but they'll make a 5% commission, so they'll earn $2 for every expansion pack that gets purchased with their code. It's unfortunately not a discount code for you, but it is a way for EA to make less money and then a creator gets it instead. So again, you do not have to use mine. You can if you want to. It's just lilsimsie, but please use somebody's. Please help support Sims creators. It does always feel a little bit weird mentioning those codes in reviews because I don't want you to think that I'm like being bought off or something. I am sincerely not in the slightest swayed by the possibility of commission. That's why I'm telling you to use somebody else's code. I am always going to be honest with you in these videos. I have everything to lose by lying to you and nothing to gain from it. So I would never do that. I'm not like some evil supervillain mastermind trying to convince you to buy Sims packs so I can make $2. Like, that's just not, I'm not doing that, I promise. I used to obsessively read guides for the Sims 3 packs when I was younger because I had very limited funds and very limited opportunities to buy a pack. And I wanted to be sure that I was getting the right one and that I knew everything it came with and how it worked and how I was gonna use it. And that's my goal with a video like this. I wanna be able to give that tool to you. I know I keep saying it, but $40 is a lot of money. So I wanna make sure that you have the tools to know what the pack is coming with so that you can make that decision. So hopefully this video has been helpful to you. I've been working on this for like a week straight. I have literally poured my heart and soul into this one. I'm also gonna be posting a ton of content on life and death here on my YouTube channel, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. I'm also gonna be live streaming the pack on Twitch like every single day, so I'll link that down below. My name's just lilsimsie on Twitch. We can kind of get into more detail and also answer more questions on Twitch because it's live and like super long, so we can cover way more of the content. And I'll post all those streams on my second channel called More Simsie that is also linked down below. I think that just about covers it though, so I'm gonna wrap this video up here. Thank you again for watching. If you made it this far, you are very brave. Happy Halloween, and I'm gonna catch you all tomorrow. Okay, bye everybody. Oh, and tomorrow I'm posting a 2.5 hour long gameplay video. Like, it's a lot of gameplay. It's a feature-length film of gameplay.